You ever notice how the smell of a shop changes on a Monday morning? It's like the ghosts of all the projects you messed up over the weekend are finally settling back into the sawdust.
Speak for yourself, Tiger. My weekend projects actually stayed in one piece, but I can smell the ambition. It's Monday, July 13th, and we have a lot to move through. You look like you've been scouring the classifieds again.
Worse, I've been looking at the industrial auctions. There's a massive one coming up July 16th. Maynard's is liquidating a bunch of Mala thermal equipment. Every time I see these listings, I start measuring my floor space like a man who thinks he can fit a semi-truck in a coat closet.
Tiger, no, we talked about this. You don't need a three-axis CNC just to make birdhouses.
It's not about the birdhouses, Alex. It's about the potential. But for the folks out there actually running a high-volume fab shop, this is the real deal. If you need industrial-grade gear without the buying a small island price tag, that's where you go. Though, if anyone is looking for something a bit more surgical for their shop, I'm looking at this Palmgren pneumatic tapping arm.
A tapping arm? Isn't that just a fancy way of saying I'm too tired to turn a wrench?
Listen, after you've spent 4 hours hand tapping holes in quarter-inch steel only to have the tap snap off right at the finish line, leaving you with a permanent hardened steel middle finger stuck in your workpiece, you start to appreciate mechanics. That Palmgren arm keeps the tap perfectly vertical and takes the torque off your wrists. It's the difference between a clean thread and a pile of scrap metal and regret.
Fair enough. I'll allow the fancy arm. But speaking of precision, I saw that Horn USA is doing something interesting with their Greenline program. They're automating custom tool inserts?
Yes, and this is actually a massive shift. Usually, if you need a custom cutting tool, you're waiting weeks for a design to be approved and machined. Horn is using a system that qualifies the design almost instantly. It's like getting a custom tailored suit in the time it takes to buy a t-shirt at the mall. And it's made here in the States, which in this economy feels like finding a $20 bill in your winter coat.
It's interesting you mentioned the made in the USA aspect because the trade world is buzzing right now. I was reading about Tony Bertolino from the PHCC. He's really beating the drum for apprenticeships lately.
And he should be. The trades aren't just a fallback anymore, they're the front line. An apprenticeship is basically a 4-year head start where someone pays you to get an education. It's the only school where the final exam involves making sure a building doesn't flood or freeze.
I love the story we found this week about the contractor who left the fire department to go back to the job site. It's not always a straight line from A to B, is it?
That's the secret truth of the shop, Alex. Your skills are like a bicycle in the garage. They might get a little dusty, but the second you hop back on, your legs remember exactly what to do. He stepped away for 5 years, came back, and found that the grind felt more like a homecoming. It's about that foundation. If you understand the flow of the work, you can always find your way back to the tools.
Is that why you're always trying to mentor the neighbor's kid? So you can solidify your own ego?
Hey now, teaching someone else how to sweat a copper joint is the only way to realize how many bad habits you've picked up over 30 years. It forces you to be honest with the process. If you're a mid-career pro and you aren't passing it down, you're just a library with the doors locked.
Let's pivot to the maker mogul side of things. Everyone wants to sell their work, but the market in 2026 is looking a little different than the build it, and they will come days of the early 2000s.
The gold rush on basic coffee tables is over. If you want to actually pay your mortgage with your hands, you have to sell the why and the how along with the what. Curated subscription boxes and digital build plans are where the smart money is moving. People don't just want a bowl, they want the story of the tree it came from, or the instructions to try and fail at making it themselves.
And the tech side is getting more local. You were talking about visual search and SEO earlier.
It's wild. People are literally pointing their phones at things and saying, find me a maker near me who does this. If your photos aren't high res and you haven't tagged your shop as handmade in your specific city, you're invisible. You could be the best wood turner in the county, but if Google thinks you're a ghost, you won't sell a single toothpick.
I saw your new value plus pricing formula on the chalkboard earlier. Innovation tax? Really?
Look, most makers calculate their wood, their glue, and maybe, if they're feeling generous, an hourly rate that's lower than what they'd make flipping burgers. But they forget that tools wear out, sandpaper disappears. That 20% innovation tax is for the future you who needs a new bandsaw blade or wants to try a radical new technique without worrying if the rent is covered. It's reinvestment masquerading as a line item.
Speaking of radical techniques, We have to talk about the $5,000 walnut resin gamble. I watched that video, Tiger. My heart was in my throat when he started pouring the epoxy.
My palms were sweating just watching it. That's a lot of money to pour into what could easily become a giant, purple-tinted hockey puck if you aren't careful.
What was the biggest oh no moment for you?
It's the bubbles, Alex. Always the bubbles. People see a beautiful slab and think they can just dump resin on it. But wood is basically a collection of tiny straws. If you don't seal those edges, really lock them down with a thin coat of epoxy first, the wood will burp air into your pour for hours. By the time you wake up, your $5,000 table looks like a carbonated soda.
So, seal first, gamble later.
Exactly. And when it comes to finishing walnut, please leave the heavy stains in the cabinet. There's a piece on the Maker channel right now about hard wax oils. It's what I use for everything. It brings out that deep, smoky chocolate color without making the wood look like it's been dipped in plastic. Plus, when someone inevitably scratches the table, you can just buff a little more oil in. It's a living finish.
You actually made a bow tuning station this weekend too, didn't you? I saw the MFJJ influence all over your Instagram.
Guilty. It's a specific kind of madness, combining woodworking with the mechanical precision needed for archery. It's like building a surgical table for a Robin Hood obsession. But that's the beauty of this life. One day you're plumbing a sink, the next you're tuning a compound bow.
We've covered a lot today, everything from pneumatic arms to the innovation tax. If you had to boil today's shop talk down to one takeaway for the people listening while they're driving to the job site, what is it?
I'd say, don't be afraid of the re-entry, whether you're returning to a trade after years away, or you're trying a resin pour for the third time because the first two ended up in the trash. The shop is a forgiving place if you respect the process. Your hands remember more than your head gives them credit for. Just keep the sawdust flying, and don't forget to seal your edges.
Well said. And maybe don't buy that industrial CNC mill until you've cleared out the garage.
I'll think about it, maybe.
Thanks for hanging out with us in the TigerDen. If you want to dive deeper, check our learning paths on the website. We've got everything from trade careers to the maker mogul business guides.
Stay gritty, stay creative. We'll see you at the bench.